to Power Producers Shop Talk, where we are refining and redefining the sales game by equipping you with the tools you need to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Tactical skills that will help you provide deliverable value to your clients and prospects.
Here, these are conversations that will differentiate you from your competition. Now, if you don't want to be different than your competition, probably should just go ahead and shut this off.
And action items that you can provide to take your prospects and clients to the next level.
Like when we audit the mod and do the mod master and give them the actionable items that they can do in order to lower their cost of risk.
This is Power Producers Shop Talk. Production redefined.
Reasonable and what wasn't, and I think that that's spot on. And these people that we're talking with don't necessarily understand what their exposures are and what they can even do about them when they're uncovered. So I do like that what we're able to provide is something tangible, action items that they can do.
Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to Power Producers Shop Talk, episode 9, how to plan your day of marketing drops.
How to do it.
I got the Drop King with me. So
the Drop King.
He's gonna take these thing and run it. I know how to drop kick, but I don't know about being the Drop King. We want to talk about it because this is something that this is a place where I think a lot of agencies again miss the mark, man. Computers have made people lazy instead of making them more efficient, right? I mean, there's a big difference between being lazy and being more efficient by using a computer.
True.
And so now you got everybody and their brother who wants to rely on automation and email and, all of that. They don't even want to do the phone because that requires them to put themselves at risk of a workers' comp claim for carpal tunnel because they have to physically dial. I mean, I don't get it, but I mean, the days I've had people tell me that cold calling is 15 years ago. Cold calling doesn't work. Okay. That's fine.
It definitely works. It's a crucial part of any, sales organization. It's not going away. It never will. You still have to drive business by doing the cold calling. Of course, everyone would like to be handed warm referrals, and those are a great source of new business because they're easier to close for obvious reasons. But the cold calling is never going to go away, and it's still effective. You just have to know how to do it correctly, and you have to, most importantly, plan your day effectively when you're doing it.
Hey, here's a fun fact. Don't ever give me the quote people buy from people they like and then tell me that cold calling doesn't work. Mm-hmm. How do they know if they like you if you don't drop in and talk to them?
Right.
I'll tell you who I don't like, people who call me all the time and send me stupid emails.
Yeah, for sure. I won't even go down that road, but
especially the LinkedIn people, right? Where
the worst.
It's Saeed.
So you went there. So you decided to go there. So go ahead. That's where I was going.
Yeah, where I'll get a friend request from Saeed, the CEO of a lead generation company, and literally within seconds of accepting the request, because I'm an open connector, I'll connect with anybody until you abuse the connection.
Right.
Seconds later, hello, David R. I've been helping businesses just like yours with lead generation, blah, blah, blah. I know it's automated because nobody calls me David R, yet that's what shows up.
I'm going to call you David R moving forward.
On my LinkedIn profile. And my standard response back to them is, I don't want you trying to generate anything for me based on this garbage you just sent.
Right.
You didn't even read my profile. You didn't personalize anything you were sending to me.
You want me to trust you with lead generation when you can't even do it for yourself?
Yeah. And I have nightmares. Of the whole hello first name. That's what would go out because they missed something in the CRM. They don't get the token put in right to the email template going out or whatever else. And I'm not saying automation doesn't have its place. Lord knows we have plenty of automation that we use. But at the end of the day, if somebody had my kids' lives at stake And it was required. The only way I could save them was to go out and organically produce a new piece of business within 30 to 45 days. I'm cold calling.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's been, some of my bigger accounts or better wins have come from me just walking up in that piece and talking with them,
Yeah. So what do you think makes you effective at doing that? How do you plan that day to get the most out of it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked a number of times about how important preparation is and what we do to prepare from the knowledge gaining aspect. But in terms of actual execution and how I'm setting up my day, it all is going to hinge around the location. I'm not going to be driving from Wesley Chapel to Newport Richey to St. Pete and, touching all 5 points of the bay, right? So I'm going to make sure that my drops are all within a pretty centralized area. So I use an app for that. It's called Road Warrior. It's pretty effective. It was I used it at my last position, and it's kind of they've ramped up their user friendliness and just like the overall look of their app. It's a free app. You can put up to, I think it's 8 stops on there now. So I'll get all the addresses of the businesses that I have confirmed are going to be a good fit based on my research. And I plug in the addresses. I put in my start location, which is usually my living room, and then, which, where I want to end. And it generates the route. It tells me the total amount of travel time and in between spots and everything. And it just sets it up in a manner that's going to be the most efficient use of my time. Because again, I don't want to be sitting here driving around all day, wasting time.
Well, and I think too, the other thing people need to consider, this is why when I talk about identifying your ideal prospect and creating your ideal prospect profile, that I'm pretty clear that you need to have like anywhere between 3 and 5 ideal prospects, right? Because if you're just going to go after landscaping companies, the chances of you
them being in the same area.
Yeah. I mean, there's no like commune of landscape companies where it's like this co-op of sharing space or whatever else. So, I like to try and keep it, logical, but if you have a landscape company as one of the, target classes of businesses that you go after, or, plumbing, HVAC electricians, or, maybe it's, light manufacturing or whatever else, you start stringing together 3 to 5 ideal prospects you're going after. It's a whole lot easier to fill up a day,
right?
Going out that way. And guess what? You also have nearby businesses.
Oh, you gotta love those nearby busineses.
Your favorite, man.
Yeah,
nearby
the old Reference USA trick. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. You can kind of cluster those together, and it's just a more efficient use of your time.
One thing we forgot to talk about in the whole Reference USA conversation is I'm pretty sure that in Reference USA, there's also a button that you can click for competitors, right?
Let's find out. There is. I did see that. I did see that earlier. It's
so that's another good way as you're building out your list.
It's actually right below the nearby businesses.
Yep.
So,
God, that's your favorite area. I bet that area is just wore out on Reference USA from you camping out there.
Oh man, and it brings up a pretty fair amount. I mean, it brings up, I don't know. And so I'm on our page, FRP in Reference USA, and it's got all the.
It should be blank. There are no competitors.
No, not the competitors part, but the nearby businesses. It's got like all the people in our complex and everything. But yeah, anyhow, that's the deal.
Yeah. So, I mean, you use Road Warrior app. One of the things that I do to prepare, and it, truthfully, it's been a long time since I've gone out and done marketing drops. I'm actually getting ready to start doing that again because I've talked myself into a fairly large volume commitment with Chubb, and that's going to require some heavy lifting, which is fine. I need to get out and practice what I preach every now and again anyhow. And typically my mouth writes checks that I have to go out and cash at that point. And so we'll be using the same things that we talk about. I will be personally, but I think that it's important when you're planning your drops to personalize the marketing materials, right? So you just said, look, we've talked about what I've laid out for you guys as producers at Florida Risk as far as what what your week should look like.
Mm-hmm.
Monday, when things are normal, Monday sales staff meeting, Friday is your planning day to prepare for the next week. The meat of your week is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of doing drops. And I say anywhere between 8 and 10 drops a day. 8 if you're using Road Warrior, because unless you use, a business instead of your living room as your first stop, then it makes it more difficult. But
yeah, for sure. And then you can also just hit some of the places that are nearby. Granted, you won't have done a ton of research on them, most likely, because there's
you never know, man.
No,
you never know what you're going to walk into.
Exactly. It's happened a number of times where I've, I pull up on a business that I've researched and I'm looking around, at their neighbors, and I'm like, damn, these are all, could be pretty solid appointments for us. So I'm just going to walk up in there and, again, at that point, I'm flying a little bit blind, which is okay. I mean, again, I'm not going in looking to meet with somebody right then and there. I just kind of want to get some of the information. So what I can do is take that information, go back, do a little bit more thorough research, and then figure out, how I want to reach out to them next.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. But we talk about it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kind of 8 to 10 is emails and phone calls and follow up or whatever you need to do. And then from 10 to 12, do marketing drops, lunch from 12 to 1, 1 to 3, do marketing drops. And then 3 to 5, you're headed back to wrap up for your day, get your stuff put into HubSpot and all of that. And so, I like, from a preparation standpoint, when I was really getting after it in the drop game, I prepared a unique packet for every single company that I was going to drop on. I know I talk about it all the time. Sorry, people. I put my process in a book, and it's an easy place for me to reference now. But in the extra 2 minutes, I talk about that, and that's a big deal. I mean, that's really the whole point of the book, is taking the extra couple of minutes to do something to a completely different level than what other people do. I'll tell you right now, man, it's crazy, but for people, the people who have read the book, it's kind of humbling to see that it changes the way people are thinking in how they're approaching things, because people will now reach out to me and tell me something they're doing differently in their agency or in their sales career as a result of reading it. My buddy Mike Crowley, who owns an agency up in New York, posted on Facebook, last week or the week before. Normally, they would send out a handwritten thank you note to somebody who gave them a referral for a new piece of business.
Mm-hmm.
But this time, he said, I took it another step, and we went in and they copied the review that the new customer left them on Google and put that review on the top flap of the thank you note with the handwritten note, showing that this person that they referred gave his agency a 5-star review and thanking them for that. Simple stuff like that. But I mean, for me, if you go in and you hand somebody marketing slicks, they are hitting file 13 faster than you can imagine.
Like,
they're going to be in the trash in no time. But if you go in and you have a decent folder, and you have that folder is populated with useful information, but more importantly, uses that prospect's company name.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know the decision maker up front, their name personally in the correspondence, which, by the way, how hard is it to do find and replace?
Logo too. Word? Yeah. I mean, like if you
all
can
of this
throw
stuff,
right.
But what you're doing is, number one, you're demonstrating that you're willing to take the time to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, they're reading this stuff and you're already putting it into their head that they're working with you and your firm because you're using their name in your stuff simultaneously. And it just blows my mind.
Listeners have not figured out that David is all about the subconscious.
Yes, I am.
Get on board here. But I've done that too. I mean, I think you're obviously a little bit more creative at it, but some of the things that I want to hear about ones that you've done, but one of the things that I've done is put together like a fleet safety program through Zywave and use their, the company name and or logo in it. Walked in, talked to whoever, showed, hey, this is a little bit of an example of what we do for businesses to help them lower their total cost of risk, and take the conversation whichever way it goes. But that's an example of how I've personalized things. Like, I know you've done the coffee thing. Like, that was one time I went out with you on the drops. That was, that was
unfortunately,
awesome.
The lady thought we were pimping coffee and not.
No, we already have a coffee service, sir. Thank you.
That's great. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah, I've got a new one that I think I'm going to start doing. This will work here because so many people in Tampa smoke cigars. But I think one of the things I'm going to do is, and I talked about this on another podcast. I think it may have been the one we did fully on prospecting. But if I see that somebody's smoking a cigar on social media, I'll zoom in and see what kind of cigar that is and what wrapper it is and all of that. And so what I'm thinking about doing now is when I do my marketing drop, going with either, a 3-finger or just a solo cigar and say, look, I noticed that you're a cigar aficionado and this seems to be the brand that you like. How about you take some time, light this one up on me? And while you're doing it, I brought you some information that you can review about, what's going on with our company and how we might be able to help you. They get a free cigar out of the deal. Maybe they, they're definitely going to smoke the cigar, but maybe they read the stuff. Maybe they don't. One of the best tricks
that whether they read it or not, that's not even ultimately the goal. Of course you want them to read it, but you're at least, planning yourself firmly in their mind for moving forward, for, when you follow up and do whatever.
I'm willing to say that the overwhelming majority of the people out there, even though we face rejection as salespeople every day, I think that the overwhelming majority of the people out there recognize the difference between somebody who's a hack and somebody who's a professional and a good salesperson. And I think that the overwhelming majority of the people like to be sold by a good salesperson. Somebody that's smooth, that thinks differently than other people. They're easy to talk to, able to have a conversation because they've done the research. They ask open-ended, thought-provoking questions. People appreciate that because it's both an art and a skill to be able to do that. But one of the best tricks that I've ever used was really early on I talk about this in Extra 2 Minutes, but it's when I first bought the folders that we still use today. I mean, I bought them because the bulk pricing to get the number that I bought was so good that I stretched and bought like a couple thousand instead of a couple hundred because it just didn't make sense not to. It's not like I wasn't going to use them, but the angle that I took, and this is before you were on board, man, but the angle that I took was I would leave the folder and then I would tell them, hey, just so you know, I'm well aware of the fact that you're probably going to throw this stuff away. And these folders are not cheap. So one of the things that we've done is we want to be efficient in how we operate and not just have disposable things. Everybody that's willing to keep the folder and allow us to come back by and pick it up in a week or two, we enter their name into a drawing for one of 5 Starbucks gift cards for coffee. Okay. So guess what? A, I'm guaranteeing that I get to go back and see them. And B, everybody wins the freaking gift card, man. Right. I'm just going to take them, I'll take them the gift card so that they can, get the coffee or whatever. And guess what else I'll do? I'll call them on my way there to give them the gift card if I'm at Starbucks and see if they want anything while I'm on my way. You take somebody a specially crafted coffee beverage they're going to be willing to sit down and talk to you while they drink said beverage. They're not just going to have you come in and, oh, where's
drop
my
off
coffee?
A coffee
Great.
And then bounce.
Yeah, great. See ya.
Thanks, nerd.
But I mean, I think that those are the types of things. Number one, okay, you're telling them that you're cost conscious. So if you're willing to go back and see them to get a folder that costs $1 for all practical purposes, they're gonna be like, wow, this guy's pretty serious about controlling cost.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number two, nobody else does that. You're also, but you're guaranteeing your ability to get in front of them again. Then you're going to be able to reward them with a gift card. They don't need to know everybody wins.
Right.
But everybody wins, right? $5 gift card, that'll get them at least a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of coffee with the sugar-free cinnamon dolce shot. I don't know. I don't have the menu memorized, but it'll get them that. And then now you've already had 2 to 3 touches with this person right out of the box, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can ask them, hey, how was the cigar? What did you think of the salary benchmarking report that I left for you? What did you think about the OSHA violation list that I left with you? How all of these things. And, again, it's not complicated, man. It was just an idea and it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's something that anybody can do, like much of the things that we talk about.
Yeah, one of the other ones that I had thought about was when, looking at putting together a vertical market for auto services shops, right? That was one where I felt like, what's one thing if you're a restaurant or an auto shop or any of those things, the one thing that people always run into issues with is that they run out of pens, man. People steal their pens, right? So my thoughts were, let's just get some basic Florida Risk Partners pens printed up that has the website, not even the phone number, but the website. Or, what I should have done was a landing page so that I could actually track how many people were going to the specific landing page based on the fact they got a pen somewhere. But, and then make that a route where once a month you're going over and you're saying, hey, I just want to let you know I'm here with some more pens for you to make sure your counter stays full so that people aren't swiping them all the time, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, you're also getting your brand out there and awareness in the community.
All those people who are stealing the pens.
Yeah, from a stupid blue and gold pen, those are all people that are prospects for personalizing. So,
sure,
you can buy those pens dirt cheap if you buy them in bulk, but that was another thing. You have a route, you're giving them something of value. And by the way, when you go to fill the pens, give them something else that they can use. Give them the salary benchmarking report. Give them the top 10 OSHA violations for their industry. Give them something on employment practices liability, or it could be any number of things, but make sure A, that it's of value, B, that it's customized or customizable to the people that you're dropping to, and C, that you have a built-in mechanism for following up based on going in. Like my rule number one for me, when I go have a first appointment, if we don't close the deal on the first appointment, I will always book the next appointment in that appointment. Like I want actionable follow-up and somebody committing to a day and time that we can meet again, because I want them to commit to it while I'm sitting there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's much harder to tell in person than you trying to follow up a week or two later and set another date. That's simple.
Yeah. I'll tell you the other thing I've done before too. I mean, and these are all things that go into planning, but I drive a BMW 750. Probably not the best thing to pull up doing marketing drops if, people are paying attention. I've actually rented a car to go do marketing drops so that I wasn't driving my car
the bus.
into people's parking lots.
Right.
People don't, they don't always view the ultimate driving machine as favorably as I do.
Sure. No, that's a good point.
Any other tricks you got that you want to mention, or anything in terms of planning?
I mean, look, from the planning perspective, again, you've got to do the research on the front end so that you know who you're going in and trying to get in touch with. You need to know a little bit about their business. I think you've talked a bunch about even just almost stalkerish things where you can, look at the cigar they're smoking on Instagram and, things like that. That's obviously very in depth and, almost an extreme measure, but hey, it's something that sets you apart from everybody else. So,
well, I think the thing with that though, that's important is we can talk about doing all the stalkerish things, from a research perspective, but you don't want to walk in and say, "Hey, I was on your Instagram and noticed blah, 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 blah." Number one, that makes you look like a stalker. Number two, it sort of takes some of the, I don't know, the mystique or whatever you want to use the word. But if I go onto social media and see that that's the kind of cigar they like to smoke, and I walk in and that happens to be the cigar I give them, I want them to wonder if it was an accident or if it wasn't.
Sure. Yeah. You don't just, show your hand there. But yeah, I don't know that I have really necessarily anything else to add. I mean, from a drop standpoint, you want to make them as efficient as possible and get them scheduled so that you're not just, all over the place, because then at the end of the day, you got to come back and you got to get all that information entered. So, it's about being smart with your time. I think that's definitely important. And it's about doing the necessary research on the front end to make those drops as successful as possible, personalizing them like we talked about for that business, even if it's something just as simple as getting their name on something that's co-branded with ours, so that, again, subliminally, like you said, they already see themselves as doing business with us.
Well, and the other thing I would say is, and I'll wrap up with this, I think in order to prepare appropriately to do marketing drops, you need to set your own expectations accordingly. Like, you need to know what you plan on getting out of that before you start it, right? So I don't plan on walking in the front door and the next thing I know, here comes the CEO, CFO, and chairman of the board with open arms, welcoming me in because they're ready to buy from me. That's not what the expectation is.
No.
I know when I go on a marketing drop that I want to confirm the decision maker, the contact information for the decision maker, and anything above that is gravy to me.
So another thing too that I just thought of is you kind of want to dress appropriately for what you're doing. Like, if I'm going to a bunch of blue collar manufacturing places, I'm not going in with a shirt and tie on, because they're going to see me from a mile away and not, want to talk to me. I'm going to go in there with with an FRP polo on. And
if I go in a shirt and tie, they're going to think that, especially a suit, they're going to think Bruce Pearl just walked in to their lobby, because I can tell you right now that if I was doing marketing drops in a full suit, the salt stains alone on my suit would keep me from getting any business.
Well, dude,
whatsoever.
That's like, so what made me think of that is the when I was doing the office supplies, that was our attire. We were wearing suits, in the office, and shirt and tie and everything. And then when I would get out in the field, jacket came off 100% of the time, and a lot of times I would rip the tie off, roll up the sleeves. Especially, I had a lot of success with your blue collar stuff. You've got to kind of mirror who you're going in, and that's not to say prejudging businesses, because that's not what I'm talking about here. But you want to be able to make them feel comfortable with you, even if it's sort of a subconscious thing, like what you're wearing.
Look, I had an account one time where I drove my car to the appointment and I was in a suit and tie, and the CFO said, "Don't ever come in a suit and tie or that car again."
Yeah. Right.
The CEO is salt of the earth dude, and certainly has enough money to buy and wear whatever he wants. But at the end of the day, he will not look favorably on that. And it's like, all right, cool. I've got a buddy who's got a 1981 Impala station wagon. I will drive that next time. And it has no air. I don't know. It's just crazy. But basic stuff like that, sometimes people don't think through. Well, I'd say we've given them enough to think about.
I can't think of anything else that's jumping out at me, man. I
want to get into I want to get into follow up after the drops, but I really feel like that's its own episode. I don't want to get into that here, because we could go for another 30 minutes just talking about how to follow up.
Totally, that's a separate deal.
All right, we are outie.
You've been listening to Power Producers Shop Talk. You can follow us at the Power Producers Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our commercial insurance training course at killingcommercial.com or visit Amazon to pick up a copy of our international best-selling book, The Extra 2 Minutes.